Howdy, folks. This is Saturday Fiend. I'm actually doing a challenge. Started this Monday, and I'm basically gonna watch one episode. Well, maybe more than one. I'm just gonna watch One Piece every day for the foreseeable future until I catch up. And on top of watching an episode every day, I'm gonna read the manga as well, and both of them in Japanese, so that I could kind of compare the two works. These are some of the thoughts and differences I've seen, ratings. I'm not completely fluent in Japanese, so these are some of the kanjis that kind of like terms that kind of threw me off. So yeah, I'm just gonna go over them. I don't think I'm gonna go over the Japanese, so I'm just gonna hide this column. That's for personal reasons. Okay, let me zoom in a little more. And I'm just gonna read each cell one by one. Yeah, this video is kind of bare bones. I'm not really editing or anything, but let's just begin. So, episode 1, I just begun the ethereal first episode of One Piece. The intro was amazing. The monologue by Goldie Roger, the narration, the opening theme, We Are by Kitadani Hiroshi. Like, his very smooth way of singing, it all came together to start the show off with a bang. Despite the animation being over 2.5 decades old, let that sink in for a moment. It's 2.5 decades old. It's like way older than I am. Um, but I can still watch it without a hitch, and it looks totally fine, at least up to the point of the first episode. The introduction of Luffy is just iconic. He really has a sense of brilliance. Also, love his like blunt demeanor, especially towards Kobe. Not only is it hilarious, it gives character to both of the characters and their dynamics. Kobe's a bit of a foil to Luffy. Like he's kind of timid, frail, and small, at least in the beginning. And I think he's gonna stay like that for the foreseeable future. And we were also introduced to the Alvida pirates, and they established the One Piece setting very well. Both of the top dogs of the episode, Luffy and Alvida, are quite mentally insane. They're kind of superhuman, right? And her famous line of asking, この海で一番美しいのは to Kobe, or Kobe, who's the most beautiful woman of the sea, is an amazing allusion to the queen from Snow White. I love how seeing Luffy's exuding confidence gave Kobe the resolve to stand up against Alvida to tell her that she's an ugly hag. This scene really drives in the theme of dreams and the sense of romanticism found in chasing them. This is the kind of life that I want for myself. Let me go over the difference between anime and manga. The manga was largely a self contained story about Kobe and Luffy's introduction, along with confrontation with the Alvida pirates. On the other hand, the anime had a second narrative where the episode introduces Nami first. Nami wouldn't be introduced until like way later, and has tension between the passenger ship that Nami is infiltrating and the Alvida pirates, whom are trying to loot the ship, as all pirates do. The episode establishes Nami to be a central character, giving her a lot of screen time but little to no dialogue to give her a sense of mysteriousness. Oops. A similar difference can be seen with Alvida's dialogue about Zoro, which she only mentions a few times in the anime. I think this adds to the excitement around the character and the next episode. Luffy's also ransacking the ship for food, which reinforces the fact that Luffy is a pirate, not some bounty hunter through the character's action. And not just their dialogue. The anime has a lot more fighting and action than the manga. Sometimes I noticed that the character running were recycled, but the scenes gave more focus to Luffy's powers, so I'd consider it an overall plus as well. And for rating, I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think episode 1 is an amazing introduction, but I'm definitely craving for more action. It also had a lot of interesting subplots that were not given in the manga, which I definitely appreciate. Let's move on. episode 2. So, I really like how simple the characters are and how comically majestic the setting is, especially when the base got introduced in chapter 3. You know, the marine base that like Luffy and Kobe arrived to? Yes, that. And oh man, I love Zoro's intro. He's literally popping out of the manga frame. It's interesting to see these dots, almost like the chemistry radicals, if you know them, in speech bubbles to like symbolize emphasis. Emphasis. I literally forgot that Zoro and Helmeppo made an agreement so that he can run away after being confined for a month with no food. You can already see Zoro being like a nice and principled man when he eats the girl's rice balls that were on the ground. Zoro also protected the girl from Helmeppo's dogs in the flashback. So, yeah, man, I always love these manga only tidbits. Um, um, for chapter 3, it was about the author Oda like drawing the Jolly Roger of the Shaw Hat group. They haven't formed yet though, so he's thinking ahead. And yeah, well, Zoro's flashback is a lot shorter in the manga. I think I don't see Zoro entering the dojo. He also doesn't blush about Queen's breast comment. This flashback doesn't happen until way later. I like in the anime they don't really go that much into depth about the flashback. And yeah, I didn't have energy to like watch the rest like the actual episode of anime, so I'm gonna stop writing my thoughts here, watch the anime in my sleep. And then here's my thoughts on the anime episode. The anime did a little injustice to the manga. There's a scene where Zoro tells Luffy to let the girl know that he enjoyed the food. In the anime, his dialogue is just truncated to just "gochiso sama deshita," which, in my opinion, removes the emotional weight of the scene. It also changed a lot of Zoro and Helmeppo's dialogue in small ways when it came to the dates between Zoro and Helmeppo's agreement or yakusoku, which I was kind of against that. And except, and this is, there's an exception. So this is except for when Helmeppo declared to execute Zoro in a day, which added to the stakes. In the manga, Helmeppo said he'll execute Zoro in 3 days, but in the anime, he said he'll basically off Zoro in 1 day. He said tomorrow, actually. So yeah, I think that was a plus. And I think Luffy pulling back and touting Helmeppo as like not even worth punching should have been kept in the anime. So there's this scene where Luffy hears about Helmeppo lying through his teeth and he's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna kill Zoro tomorrow. Yeah, screw the agreement." And then Luffy gets really pissed, and he basically tries. He actually does. He hits Helmeppo once. Kobe kind of stops him, and then Luffy's like, "Oh, he's not worth punching, anyways." And that was in the manga, but it wasn't in the anime, and I think it should have stayed in the anime because it adds parallelism to Axe Hand Morgan, basically Helmeppo's father, and he basically said the same thing. He was like, "Helmeppo, you're not worth anything." So poor Helmeppo, but like this should have stayed. And yeah, 6 of 10. This is the rating, 6 out of 10. It's okay, but they were not faithful to the anime, and they didn't add much content or value. Only diminished some of the manga's highlights. The forceful inclusion of Nami feels a little unnatural at the moment. Like she didn't need to be at this island. She could have definitely appeared in the next island. Yeah. Okay. So this is the 20th. I kind of have to apologize because I forgot to watch on the 19th. Like I skipped one episode, so I ended up watching two in 1 day, and I read like 5 chapters in 1 day. All right, I've already read chapter 5, so I'm going to continue from 6. Sorry, I'm a little gassed up. I don't know why. Okay, I find it a little cheesy when people call it the Akuma no Mi series. Uh, Akuma no Akuma no Mi series. That's what Morgan says when he realizes that Luffy has the gum gum fruit, and yeah, Morgan's like, oh no, it's the Akuma no Mi series. Like, it's kind of cringe, and he kind of, it feels like a brand of toys or like video game powers, and yeah, I didn't like that. But it is interesting to see everyone fear Luffy's gum gum fruit though, and it really gives East Blue vibes. Oh yeah, man, Zoro and his three katanas are cool as hell. Like this chapter 5 is like when he actually starts using them and fighting. Gum Gum Gib, uh, Gum Gum Whip, giving us one of the first multi panel spreads. It's very gnarly, but I can't see it because of my vertical reading, I'm afraid. Man, Luffy is already so strong. He is one-sidedly beating Axe Hand Morgan. Sometimes I forget how strong East Blue Luffy is. And oh my god, it's the infamous Helmeppo gun scene that 4 Kids screwed up. It's very iconic. Like, yeah, if you know. And alright, seeing Zoro eat gave me big catharsis. Oh, this must be after the fight. So yeah, Zoro goes to the pub that he rescued and he eats a lot. And yeah, this is a big hurdle for him. He basically um was on the post for days. I think like 9 days pretty much. And he toughed it out. He was very hungry though. So yeah, it gave me big catharsis when Zoro and Luffy defeated Axe Hand Morgan and they were able to eat. Right, right. Oh, yeah, I also didn't know that they mentioned the Grand Line so early into the series. But they're using Ateji Idai Naru Idai Naru Kokai, which actually makes sense. You can kind of see how Luffy is emotionally smart when he scares Kobe into punching him. This is when um the Marines come into the pub to kind of like kick Luffy out of the island, and Kobe's scared that Luffy's gonna snitch or like reveal that he used to work for Alvida, but Luffy kind of makes a big show out of himself and Kobe, and then the Marines are like, okay, you guys aren't related, and then yeah, he's very emotionally smart. He's thinking ahead of the people around him, and he makes a good show. Like, it's interesting to see everyone salute to and send off Luffy and punish themselves by abstaining food for a week. It shows how respectable the Navy would be if it wasn't oppressed by people like Axe Hand Morgan. This is kind of weird, but now I'm reading from chapter 1 again. Yeah. I skipped chapter 1, read up to 7, 2 to 7, and then I went back. Oh yeah, and the Roger saying "Hoshikira kurete yaru with the additional ze. Like, I swear he didn't say that in the intros, and it's crazy how I see Shanks crew and Nami, not Luffy or Zoro Kobe in the first chapter cover for One Piece. Never mind. The next page displayed Luffy and Luffy alone, so it's very fitting. Shanks is like the second proper introduction to One Piece ever, right after Luffy, right? I didn't realize how crucial he was to the plot. Like, oh my god, I just saw Luffy eating his devil fruit and did not notice for the last 2 pages because um there was focus on the mountain bandits. I think Higuruma? I forgot the name. But yeah, everyone was focused. Well, I was focused on the mountain bandit scene. And Luffy was just eating the devil fruit, the gum gum fruit in the background. And yeah, that was That was very subtle. That was very sneaky of the author. Wow, the latter half of chapter one was so good that I kind of stopped writing my commentary. It was just that good. Oh, this must be when Luffy gets kidnapped to the sea. Shanks comes and saves him. Okay. Wow, it's kind of funny that just Luffy and Zoro are talking, like, and they're complaining about how they can't navigate the sea. Wow, this chapter is so chaotic. Luffy got kidnapped by a giant bird, and Zoro has to pick up some sea stranded folk. Nami is very smart. Oh my god, this is the second time I heard Akuma no Mishiri's. I just cannot. Nami's trickery is crazy. She just left Luffy with the three cronies. Oh yeah, I just read the first volume of One Piece. I didn't know it was only 8 chapters. Now I'm going to watch the anime. So I think I forgot to put a spoiler alert, but yeah, very interesting. Chapter 8 was very chaotic, if you couldn't tell. I don't know, this might be a little cryptic and hard to understand, especially if you're not watching One Piece. It's kind of cryptic for me, and I've been watching this whole weekend, so this might come out as a horrible video, but I want to meet my quota. I want to pump content out, and this is something new. So yeah, all right, differences. Ooh, dude, I forgot the differences in the anime watching experience. I was kind of doing this as I sleep. Yeah, I was doing that for multiple days. I actually like how instead of having Luffy's flashback at the very first episode, they have a dedicated flashback through Luffy losing his straw hat to the wind, Zoro catching it, which gives cue to an amazing transition. I think the anime really elevated the flashback scene. It was very smart for them to have this come up later instead of immediately as did the manga. And yeah, very much an improvement from the word scramble of episode 3. I didn't like Helmeppo and Zoro. Oops. As was as I was saying, I didn't really like Helmeppo and Zoro's conversation and how it was adapted into the anime. So a 6 out of 10 for episode 3 and a 7 out of 10 for episode 4. And this is today's entry. I forgot to watch yesterday, so I ended up watching 2 episodes and reading. This is quite a lot of chapters in one day, right? So yeah, yeah, and like I was writing all of these. This is pretty much it though. So this is quite the batch of chapters I'm going to have to read. Let's do this quickly. As you can see from here, and I started at 11 p.m. Took me 2 hours. I don't know if it was too quick. Well, okay. I digress. Anyways, honestly, I love the depiction of Nami in the 8th chapter, from her dialogue with Luffy to her strong likes and dislikes. So she loves navigating, she loves oranges, but she hates pirates. Like, yeah, she's a cute character. Dude, did I actually write this? But, okay, let's continue. Also appreciate that the female characters in the East Blue Saga aren't overly sexualized. Like, Nami still has normal proportions, if you know what I mean. And it did feel a little bizarre when the manga skipped Nami giving food to Luffy. I feel like that was a very important scene, where said the anime doesn't even have this. Luffy doesn't even get the food. Poor Luffy. Well, the introduction of Buggy was amazing as well. His cannonballs, his Buggy Tokusei cannonballs are terrifying, especially by East Blue and human standards. Like, he destroyed a an entire block of buildings with one blast. And oh yeah, we're getting the dog. This is one of the first truly touching stories I've seen in early One Piece. Lucy's backstory isn't that melancholic Zora's backstory is more determined than purely sad. And I know that Nami's story is going to be a tearjerker, but we're not gonna have that for a while. So yeah, this dog is like the first of Oda's emotional like narrations or flashbacks, right? Oh yeah, Buggy's characterization is amazing. He's like the tsukomi. What would that be in English? He's like the critique of everyone around him, and it almost makes him seem human. The lion is amazing. Like, man, I wish Oda put more animal tamers in the modern narrative. Sort of like Naofumi, if you know, like the rising of Shield Hero. I I don't know if that anime is good or if it's just slop, but yeah, I watched the newest season. And oh yeah, the name of the dog is Shushu. It's not Shushu. I originally thought it was Shushu, but it's Shushu. It's really bittersweet to see Shushu continue to guard the shop knowing that their owner passed away, and the store being Shushu's like treasure is like great parallelism to Luffy's straw hat being his treasure. Uh, I have a lot of typos here. Like, I really feel the weight of the dreams and the resolve that some characters have, regardless of their strength. This is why I love One Piece. I think I said that um on the 18th as well. I love the fact that the manga changes fonts around to evoke different emotions. Like when Nami and the mayor, Mr. Boodle, were terrified of the who was it? Morge, I think. Moji. Yeah, like when they were terrified of some characters, their fonts change. When Luffy is like determined, when he makes it, like when he shouts, there's like a different font. Like, I love the use of typography in manga. It's very intricate and it adds all the more. Oh man, Oda geeking about the Vikings is amazing. Like with El Elbaf, Elbaf happening in the present day, I really get to see some of his big inspirations for the end game. Despite One Piece being loosely based on pirates, the inspiration references are very based. Richie, which is the lion, cutting Shushu reminds me of how the manga has more creative liberties than the anime. The fact that it can introduce a little more gore and blood. Wow, the action sequence of chapter 13 is amazing. Do I support animal cruelty? Well, don't clip me on that. The stare down between little Shushu and the lion feels so impactful. Like the back and forth between Shushu's like flashback and the I want to say Shushu's like flashback and the present is new territory, honestly, in terms of like manga writing, right? And it's so sad to see like Shushu's pet shop get burnt down to a crisp. I was literally going to cry. I love when like Luffy sees the burning shop and he clenches his face and he knows treasure and he knows game. He knows the sentiment that Shushu had toward the shop. So we get his like serious moment. We get his first fist, his right hook on Morge. It never gets old. Seeing Buggy's parts reminds me that parts are not to mess with. They do not care about people, and that Luffy's kind of an exception, right? Bro, Buggy mishearing everything is just hilarious. This is the one thing that makes him more cartoonish and less human. It was like, I want to show specific examples, but this is the only one. Gomuningen as Gokigen, basically a rubber man, and he misheard that as um mood, pretty much. Like, I actually laughed out loud. The puns are crazy, and I love the Mayor Boodle, and he has the determination. He might not have like the physical power to push through, but he's got the conviction. The look on his face and the line "무보 wa shochi" explains it all. Like he was crying, but he was like his emotions, his passion, his burn and love for the village, and like I like town building and things like that. I like civilization, so like it also hurts me too. It also like breaks my heart to see Buggy destroy everything with a flick of his finger. So like I I can sympathize with like his sentiment. Wow, Oda's love for pirates came from the anime 小さなバイキング Small Viking Vic, I think. I don't really know the anime, but it's plenty interesting to see someone talk about it. It's interesting to see that despite Nami having difficulty in understanding sentiment towards non-monetary things, Buggy outright fails to register that anything other than gold, silver, jewelry can be treasure, even remotely. And both characters have the greedy nature, but they're completely different people. So yeah, I very much enjoyed the manga this time around. It's also crazy that the anime converted all of these chapters into a few episodes. Now let me talk about some of my other thoughts. I feel like a lot of the dialogue from Buggy and Nami got removed. There were a lot of more action scenes in the anime. There was a lot less faces and a lot more padding of the illustrations. And I'm sure they were trying to cut corners. Mayor Boodle's face and panel resolve was done unjustly in the anime, in my opinion. I couldn't really see his entire face, and it made me a little disappointed. So yeah, 6 out of 10 for episode 5 and 8 out of 10 for episode 6. So episode 5 felt very janky. I feel like a lot of the limitations of early digital animation reared its ugly head during this production. And I'm positive they didn't like look at the conversion rate. It's like one, two, three. It's like 4 chapters an episode. It's insane. So like, I don't really blame them, but I don't know. It wasn't as great as some of the other episodes that I've watched this week. Episode 6 felt amazing. Like, not only did it adapt the show pretty faithfully, it added on to the emotional moments and added detail which got rid of some of the plot holes. It outshined the manga. And yeah, that was pretty much it. That's all the thoughts I have on One Piece. I think I might make these thoughts shorter because it's taking too much time out of the day, and I just want this to be like something fun, something enjoyable. I also want to spend more time making the video better instead of like being more articulate about my thoughts, which honestly I can't really be because I mean I'm writing this like at midnight. Like I'm kind of tired and everything. So yeah, but this was my first rodeo at this series. I think I'm just gonna call this watching One Piece every day episode 1. Where thoughts on One Piece episode 1. Yeah, well anyways, that's pretty much it. Goodbye.